Hey guys, how y'all doing? Today I'm just going to start by explaining a couple of the obvious things. The background is a little bit different. As you guys may know, Bryce and I are in the process of moving, and so there is like a box over here, which thankfully is out of view, and then we have a desk that we're trying to get rid of back there, and my art stuff is gone, so we needed to pack that up. But today, I'm doing a video that's different than anything I've ever done for my channel. I don't think I've ever talked about books on my channel, which is really weird because books are something that mean an extreme amount to me. I am a huge avid reader. I'm a big pusher for people to read, and it's one of my absolute favorite pastimes, and I am constantly with a book. So I thought that I would just kind of chit chat with you guys over a couple of the different books I've been reading, and for any of you out there that maybe like similar genres that I do or like similar books, hopefully this will give you some new stuff to put on your reading list, or maybe you've read some of these and you'd like to hear my opinions. These are just kind of the books that I've read in the past month that I thought I would share with you all, and since I'm trying to do more personal videos on my channel, I thought that this would be a fun one that maybe I'll try to do every couple of months or so just to catch you guys up on what I'm currently reading. I'm going to start with the book that I'm reading right now. I'm almost finished with it, and it is called Stone Mattress. This is by Margaret Atwood, and it's a collection of short stories, and they're supposed to be, it says 9 wicked tales. I think that they're just supposed to be really kind of funny and kind of eerie and a little bit spooky. And this whole book has a lot of themes relating, I think, with sex, death, illness, kind of like weird stuff. It's a very, very interesting book to read because the whole, you know, when you read a book, you just sort of get a certain type of feeling. The feeling you get from this book is unlike any other book I've ever read. Because it is short stories, I just think naturally your brain kind of does something different because you get used to characters and you have to let them go. The first 3 stories in this book are all kind of closely related. My thoughts on this book are they're kind of in between. Overall, they're on the good side, but I would say that the first 3 stories, the ones that are kind of connected, I really wasn't a huge fan of that entire storyline. I really didn't find the stories to be very scary or very they just didn't put a whole lot of emotions in me. I kind of felt like I just needed to read them to sort of get over them. Certain aspects of them I liked, but I thought them to be kind of slow and they just weren't anything that really entertained me. The next couple of stories, though, I really liked. There's one called, what is it? Lucis Natura. Apparently I think it's Latin for like freak of nature. That one, it's very short. It's only about 5 pages. I loved that story. I thought it was very spooky, and I thought that it was more so what I thought that this entire collection was going to be like. And then the next one, which is called The Freeze-Dried Groom, I loved that one. That one was great. The way that Margaret writes is absolutely beautiful. It's very intricate. You get tons of imagery out of it, and I feel like she's a fantastic writer. And so far I am really, really enjoying it. I would just say that some of the stories I like more than others, but if you're kind of looking for something that's full of very, very exciting, very different characters, there are parts in it that are quite funny and just really well written, and if you kind of like that unsettling feeling a little bit, then you will like this collection of stories. The next couple of ones I do physically have, but because we're in the process of moving again, they have been packed up. So I'll try to insert little screen caps of what they look like so you guys know what I'm talking about, but I apologize, I do not actually have the physical book because it's taped up in a box. Also, a couple of these I don't really remember the authors to, but I'll try to either put that in the little screen cap or leave it down below. The next book that I recently finished is called The Knife of Never Letting Go. This is by Patrick Ness, and this is a story about a boy who's about to reach manhood in kind of a dystopia world, and he kind of embarks on this journey to find a place of safety because he lives in a world where everybody can hear each other's thoughts, or at least all of the males in the world can. For some reason, you start to figure out that there's a couple of different, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a couple of different factors there, but men can hear each other's thoughts in this kind of dystopian world, and so he's trying to run away with, you know, without getting caught while everybody can kind of hear what each other's thinking, which, as you can imagine, would be very, very difficult. Along the way, of course, he stumbles into tons of different roadblocks, and there's a whole army that's literally an army that's out to get him. And I think that you as the reader, what you're supposed to try to be thinking here is, you know, there's this army coming out to get this one boy. Like, why is he so special? And why are they so adamant in trying to get him? And so that's kind of the thought that's lingering in the back of your mind the whole time. This book is one that I mean, I wouldn't say I would really recommend it. I guess reading like the back and then kind of reading some of the reviews on Goodreads, I thought it was going to be totally different than how it actually was. I guess the whole idea really intrigued me, trying to run away from a group of people who can constantly hear what you're thinking. I loved that whole concept. I felt like the book though was very slow. Like there was action, but it was kind of just the repeating the same exact stuff that happened in the beginning. Like there would be a scene that would happen and then, you know, he'd move to a new place and then that same exact scene would kind of happen again. It maybe happen in like a different location, but it would be the same thing with the same characters and it would be the same kind of struggle and the same sort of frustration. And I felt like there was one scene that just continued on and on and on in this book, and it got so repetitive and I just got really sick of basically reading the same thing over and over again. So in that way, I kind of felt like it made it go a little bit slower. You know, as he's trying to get to this kind of safe place, he jumps into like little different towns along the way, and I really liked the difference between each place, kind of how each place is ran. You know, each place kind of has their own government, so it was really interesting to see, you know, kind of the political side and see how each little town kind of governs themselves. I thought that that was really interesting. Overall though, I wouldn't go out and I wouldn't be like, this is a book that you absolutely have to read. I think that if you are interested in sort of like an adventure story, you might kind of like it. I just had a really hard time finishing it. It wasn't a book that like I would pick up every night and be super excited to read. It was just kind of one that I felt like I had to get through. It is a series, and for me, if the book's not good, I won't finish the series, and I'm not interested at all in finishing it. So I would give it like a 2 out of 5 stars. I just don't think it really was like my cup of tea. Before that, the book that I read was called A Man Called Ove, or I guess it's Swedish, so technically it's like Ove or Ovi or something like that. This is by, his first name's Frederick. Of course the screen cap should have it, but I forget his last name. He's a Swedish writer, and this book blew me away. This is by far one of the favorite books I've read this year. It was so just heartwarming and so touching, and this character is just one that I will remember for the rest of my life. It's just one of those books that even everyday life, I just kind of think back to it, or something will happen and I'll be like, oh, A Man Called Ove. I just think about it a lot. It's about an old man who's a bit of a curmudgeon. He is just kind of nasty to people. He just kind of has this really bitter outlook on life. And the book is so many different things. It's absolutely heartbreaking at points, but it's absolutely hysterical in others. Like, it's one of those books that you are literally laughing out loud to, which even some books that are considered humorous, I typically don't do that a whole lot with, but this book, honestly, it just totally got me. You sort of experience the changes in Ove's world. There's a family with 2 daughters, and then what he thinks is an imbecile of a man, and then a woman that move in next door to him, and so they kind of cause all this different trouble in his life. And like I said, it's very, very funny, but as he starts to learn and as he starts to grow and as this family starts to help him to seek the good in life, it's so incredibly touching. There's parts in this book where I was crying from laughing and then crying from just pure heartbreak. Like, it's just such an emotional book, and it's so good. At first, I thought that the book really reminded me of like the Up story, but after a while, it started to kind of transform into its own story, which I really liked, because that was the only thing in the beginning that I didn't love. It just, you know, like Ove's wife died, and there's just certain things that just remind me so much of Pixar's Up, and I like that it sort of started to transform into its own story. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love that the author would kind of go back and show you, you know, what's caused Ove to be the way that he is. I love that. Just overall a great book. Absolutely great writing. Just so funny, and oh my gosh, I am so emotional over this book, and I absolutely love it, and I think that everybody needs to read it. I gave it to my mom because I knew that she would absolutely love it. If you just want a very warming, a very emotional kind of story, and I think what I, you know, gained so much from this book is it really gave me a great perspective on, you know, people in your life that always seem bitter or always seem angry. This book really helped me to kind of understand that, because, you know, I think it's important to always think about what's going on in other people's lives, but this book just portrayed that theme in such a unique way, and so I feel like there's a lot that, you know, you personally can gain from reading this. Another book that I finished recently is called Think Like a Freak. This is by the people that did the Freakonomics books. I think both of their names are Steven something. This is their book on kind of how to teach you to think like an economist in the way that they sort of present economics and Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics. So if you guys know those two books, it'll kind of make more sense when I'm explaining this. Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics, they are economics books, but they're very, I don't know how to exactly describe it. Economics sometimes to some people sounds like a very dry topic, but the way that they present it, it's super, super fun. They are extremely hilarious writers, and I just love their personality. They're just very sarcastic, and I absolutely love that. And if you liked Freakonomics, I think that this is going to be a great book for you to read. Even if you haven't read Freakonomics, you could definitely jump right into this book and you would totally get the whole thing. It's sort of like a self-help book, but it's more fun than that. It does kind of explore into economics a little bit, kind of how different things in our world work, but it's mostly just trying to teach you how to think a little bit more worldly and how to think, diagnose, and solve problems in a different way from what you normally do. I found this book incredibly helpful. I work in an environment that really is challenging, and so reading this book, it gave me a different perspective on certain things, and I really feel like it has improved some of the ways that I think and, like I said, solve problems. I love that, similar to Freakonomics, it kind of puts in little stories. Each chapter kind of has a whole story behind it. So while you're reading it, I love that you are kind of reading it to help yourself to think better and kind of be a better person and be more involved in stuff. But there's these couple of little anecdotes that are just really interesting. If you're a big, just like fun fact consumer sort of a person, you will absolutely love this. And I think that if you just want a different way, like I said, to think about your problems, solve your problems, come up with solutions, and you know, just kind of train your brain to think about everyday life, incentives, that kind of stuff in a different way, then you will really enjoy this. I just have one more to talk about, and it is a series that I've been reading, and I'm currently on the 3rd book. This is The Retribution of Dyer. The Retribution of Mara Dyer. I have a really hard time saying that. This is from the Mara Dyer trilogy, and so while I haven't started this one yet, I'm waiting to finish Stone Mattress and then I'll jump into this guy. I have read the previous two. So this story is about a girl who in the first book, she wakes up in the hospital, a lot of her friends are dead, and she has no idea what happened. She knows that she was there, but to her it's a complete blackout, and so I thought that the first book was so interesting because it's trying to piece the puzzle, and it's scary, it's spooky, like it's really, really intriguing. And so you're trying to figure out, you know, with Mara, what happened that night and why her friends all died. She starts to soon realize that she has certain, I don't really want to say powers because that sounds really stupid, but I don't really know how else to describe it. She has certain capabilities or certain abilities that allow her to do things that other people can't, and it's really interesting. And just reading the book, like I said, it's kind of scary, it's a little bit spooky, very, very intriguing. It's got elements of like a thriller, and it does have, because it is a young adult novel, certain tropes that you see a lot throughout, you know, YA fiction, which that was about the only thing that I didn't, you know, like about the series. I would still say it's absolutely one of my favorite series that I've read this year, but you know, if there's certain young adult stuff, you know, there is a love interest involved who, by the way, even though I kind of, you know, mock it a little bit, I really like it. His name is Noah, and even though he presents a lot of the same things that a lot of young adult novels present as far as their male characters that are the love interest are involved, you know, he's insanely rich, he's British, insanely good looking, like, I mean, just to the max, like, total golden boy, like, really. But he kind of has this, I guess what I like, and I'm just always into this, he kind of has a like bad boy side to him a little bit, which I find really, really interesting, and I absolutely loved him and Mara together, and I still do. I think that he is just such a funny and such a fun character to read overall, but I could see how some people with, you know, exactly who he is, you know, it is sometimes a little bit like, you know, yeah, right, but it is still great, and there's something about it that I still get super, super into. So the first book, like I said, was trying to piece together all of those puzzles. The second book was more so about, now that she knows, how does she go from there? What does she do now? And meanwhile, you know, she has a family, and her family's thinking that she's literally going crazy. And so she's trying to, you know, sort of balance two different worlds in which she knows what's happening, but she can't really tell anybody because it sounds psychotic. And so the second book was, I think, more about her just discovering herself and figuring out what she does from here. I didn't like the second book as much as I liked the first book. The first book absolutely blew me away, and I seriously think I finished it within like 3 days because I just could not put the thing down. It was just one of those books that I would stay up until, you know, 2 a.m. reading. Just a great book. Second one was still very interesting, still very spooky, still a great book, but I'm really interested to see what the third one is like, because the second one, I just think that the storyline I didn't enjoy as much as the first one. I loved how the first one you were really trying to figure out what was going on, and for me that was just a big, you know, kind of page turning element. So I'm excited to see what this book, you know, kind of what the ideas here are going to be, and I'm excited to, you know, explore the pace of this and see how I think this the conclusion sort of compares to the other two. So guys, that is my overall review on some of the books I've been reading recently. If any of you feel like you maybe enjoy some of the similar stuff that I do, please leave it down in the comments. I love getting book recommendations because I'm just somebody who, seriously, I go to Barnes & Noble and I buy like 6 books at once, and so I would absolutely love to hear what you guys are reading right now, and then maybe in the future it'll get featured somewhere if I really like it. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.